Our story begins with a crowd of people looking up and asking, "What's that up there?" Suddenly, we see the eye of a giant flying lizard. It's said that one day, a massive hole opened in the sky, bringing a catastrophic event upon humanity. Monsters spread across the land, causing a sudden change in our once peaceful world. It's that classic beginning you see in many manhwas lately, but I assure you, this one is really good. Folks, cities slowly descended into chaos, and humanity became increasingly desperate. We see some creatures getting close to attacking some children. Just as these horrifying creatures are about to strike, there's a sudden shower of blood. Amidst all the agony, it's said that this wasn't the end for humanity. Enter a very muscular man with the words, "The First King," on his back. This man is one of the hunters, humans who received special abilities after the rift in the sky. They were named hunters and became humanity's last hope. This was one of the blessings given to the hunters. All of this happened due to the world's characteristics. Yes, this is the blessing. If there was only one hunter who amounted to anything, that old muscular guy would say to a child, "Today's hunters are hopeless. They relied on our traits and died." He was saying this to Shin Yu-sung, a 5-year-old child. The kid was amazed by the old man's skills, thinking everything he did was incredible. The old man then asked, "What does a hunter need to survive?" The child replied, "Well, it's strength, right?" I'm calling the kid a child because you can't really tell if it's a boy or a girl. The man stood up and said, "That's right. A hunter must rely only on their body. Traditionally, a hunter must defeat opponents with a single punch, whether they're villains or monsters. That's why I brought you from the orphanage. You were born with a perfect body. First, the 9 paths of Y are blocked. Being born with the 9 paths of Y blocked means you have an exceptional mind, the appearance of a god, and an excess of mana. However, there's a downside. Because of all this, you'll die much earlier." The child feels sad, knowing they'll die early, already frustrated, barely out of diapers, and already aware of their early demise. The old man starts laughing and says, "You're really so impatient. However, you were also born with another constitution, a yang body ambulance. This yang energy cures all the negative effects of the blocked 9 yin paths. Shin Yu-sung, your physique is a type of talent that will never appear again in the history of humanity. In this world, I am the only one who can make your incredible power blossom. The only question I have for you is, will you follow me?" The kid replies, "I really like flowers." Completely random, but let's cut the kid some slack. The old man starts laughing and says, "That's what I expect from my disciple." That was the first day of training. The scene then cuts to day 711 of training. The kid had already made significant progress, killing a giant boar 10 times his size. Our protagonist was now 7 years old. The boy was drenched in blood when the master appeared behind him and said, "My rival, the sword god, defeated a rank 2 monster when he was 7. You were born with a much greater physique than his. But is this all you can do? You'd better dedicate yourself to your training, and let's prepare what you caught for dinner," to which our protagonist just agrees. We then skip to day 1040 of training, and our protagonist managed to knock down a tree with his bare hands. He was 8 years old. The protagonist approaches his master, all happy, saying he managed to knock down the tree. However, the master wasn't very happy about it, sitting with a stern face, finding it really boring. Next, we reach day 1785 of training, where our protagonist was facing some giant insects. He uses the god of battle form and punches the insects with a move called Dragon's Crushing Stone Palm, destroying all the insects with a single blow. The protagonist was now 10 years old. The master tells him that his stance still needs a lot of improvement, and that he, the master, had already crushed a much bigger monster than those. The master says there's no chance of him becoming a hunter at that level of skill. The protagonist, in awe, thinks, "As expected from my master, he's really strong," but also reflects that he still has a long way to go. The master then says, "Well, let's sleep here tonight, so light the fire." The protagonist simply agrees. We arrive at day 2892 of training, where our protagonist is now 13 years old. For the first time, we see the protagonist training hand to hand with his master. The master isn't joking around, charging at the protagonist with incredible speed. Just as the master's blow is about to reach the protagonist's face, he manages to defend himself in a split second. However, the impact's force is so great that it throws the protagonist far away. Even so, amidst the broken rocks, the protagonist's guard remains intact. He then charges towards the master, but the master quickly delivers a strike right to the protagonist's face. At high speed, the protagonist manages to get behind the master, dodging the attack and delivering a punch with all his strength to the master's abdomen. But when the dust settles, the protagonist is horrified to see that the master stopped his strongest blow with just one finger. The master praises him, saying the protagonist has become more agile, patting his head and saying he did well since his stance has improved a lot. However, the master starts scolding him, telling him not to get too cocky because there are many hunters out there with much higher skill levels, and these hunters are so dedicated that they're never satisfied with how strong they are. The protagonist wonders when he will leave the mountain of martial spirits, and if he will have to fight monsters like his master does. But he thinks, regardless of all that, I have to become the greatest hunter of all. I'm going to work really hard for that. The master then tells him that he really needs to train a lot if he wants to become the strongest hunter, and that he'll need to eat a lot of meat to reach that goal. The scene shifts to a waterfall on day 421 of training. The protagonist is inside the waterfall, sort of meditating. The master appears in front of him and says, "Hard to believe today is our last day together. Huh, what a shame, kid." The protagonist stands up and steps out of the waterfall. He was 17 years old by this time. He starts putting on his clothes, tying his hair, and wrapping his bandages. The master asks if he's finished getting ready and then says, "Kid, take this now." He tosses something to the protagonist, who catches it and, upon opening his hand, finds an iron ring. The protagonist wonders what this object is. Suddenly, a hologram emerges from the object, talking about Gaon Academy and showing a picture of the protagonist. He wonders what this Gaon Academy is. The master says, "I've already sent my letter of recommendation there. It's the first time you'll be leaving this place in 12 years, isn't it?" The protagonist then turns to the master, bowing and thanking him for everything he's done for him so far. The scene then shifts, and the protagonist is descending the stairs, remembering his master's words. "Sung, there are countless hunters all over the world, and I'm sure you'll meet many highly skilled hunters, experience many new things in this world, but you must become the strongest among them because you are the disciple I, the strongest hunter in the world, have trained perfectly." The protagonist feels very happy and inspired by his master's words, determined to become truly the strongest in the world. The scene then changes, and it is said that after all that chaos, humanity decided to opt for education. The complex built to create the strongest hunters through the best education was named the Hunter Academy. Training with various types of weapons, learning monster characteristics, strategies for mastering dungeons, and understanding their own traits. For 3 years, students would go to the academy and learn everything necessary to become real hunters. Among all these academies, one stood out as the best, Gaon Academy. The scene then shows our protagonist arriving in front of Gaon Academy. Suddenly, director Jin Byung-chul appears to welcome him. The protagonist thinks, he seems like a nice person. The scene shifts to the director's office, where the director asks the protagonist to sit and says, "We're still strangers, but would you like a cup of tea? So, you want to be a part of Gaon Academy?" The director thinks, even though he seems a bit lost, he's still the disciple of Eam Han Hak. This kid must be very skilled. The director is already thinking about the fortune he could make with this kid. He then asks, "I know my question is a bit obvious, but your trait is rank S, right?" The kid responds, "Well, no, it's rank F." This frustrates the director a lot. He starts laughing and says, "You're very funny. There's no way the disciple of that guy could be rank F, so you must be rank A." The protagonist, very serious, replies, "I'll say it again. My trait is rank F." He opens the system window, and there it is, rank F. The trait's name is Sharp Focus, and its effect increases focus equivalent to the mana used. The director, almost having a heart attack, exclaims, "I can't believe it. He really is a rank F." The protagonist then says, "My master told me I must become a hunter who doesn't rely on his trait." The director, desperate and angry, thinks, "I was wondering why that filthy old man was being so helpful." The director says, "Well, I don't intend to increase the number of rank students at the academy, but a promise is a promise. Let me make it clear that at Gaon, skill is everything. If you want to enter Gaon, prove your abilities, even if you are a rank F." On the system window, an emergency enrollment test mission appears. The target was Shin Yu-sung, rank F. The description was to recruit training partners, with a restriction of Class S and Class D students, and students ranked 15 to 65. The reward was 50 SP school points. Everyone at the academy was horrified by this. A boy comments, "Did you see? We can earn 50 points just by defeating a rank F." A girl says, "Even so, he is still the disciple of the King of Fists. I'm not sure if it's a good idea." Suddenly, a red-haired guy appears and says, "The disciple of the King of Fists is rank F, and we can earn 50 points just by defeating him." Another boy confirms, "That's what they said." The red-haired guy's name was Ju Hajin, Class D, with a student rank of 42. He says, "Isn't there something very suspicious about this? I'm starting to think he's just a charlatan." The boy agrees with Ju Hajin, who says, "Well, tell the other guys in the class that I'll take care of this kid. Oh, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can try to defeat me by force. Well, that's it. I'm going." The boys say goodbye to him, and Hajin thinks, defeating a rank F for 50 points is practically free. Maybe this King of Fists will even make me his disciple instead of this kid. I'm really starting to get excited about this. Suddenly, Hajin bumps into someone and says, "Watch where you're going." When he looks up, he sees a beautiful girl with silver hair named Adela Hortensia, who was ranked number 1. Hajin is shocked to recognize Adela. She then says, "King of Fists, you said?" We have a flashback of Adela when she was younger, where it is said that her grandfather's ally was the strongest of the hunters. With him around, we had no fear of anything. Even I, a genius, lost to him in the blink of an eye. So, remember him, the strongest hunter of humanity, and my grandfather's ally, who is my pride, the King of Fists. You one hack. It seems the old man is really impressive. Adela then says, "So the disciple of that hunter is here, huh? If that's true, he should be able to at least reach that level." The scene shifts to the director's office, where our protagonist is already in his school uniform. A boy comments that he looks great in the uniform and asks if the size is good. The protagonist responds, "The size is perfect. Thank you very much." The boy says, "Well, it's nothing. I'm very good at this." He was Lee Siwoo, Class F, ranked 72. The protagonist says that the uniform is very comfortable to move in, and the boy says that functionality is a priority for hunters. The boy presses a watch on the protagonist's arm and says, "Lastly, this is a barrier that will activate when you're in danger. Your safety is guaranteed, so you can fight to your heart's content." The boy thinks that the protagonist's first training partner is Ju Hajin, and that might be too much for an enrollment test, but decides not to scare him. A girl arrives at the door, saying it's time. The boy wishes the protagonist good luck and hopes he wins. This is the Gaon enrollment test, which even the master acknowledges. "I definitely have to pass this," thinks the protagonist. The scene shifts to the arena, where the protagonist is already facing Hajin, a red-haired woman. Reporter Yu Hana from K-Channel says, "I'm here to talk about Shin Yu-sung, who is attracting a lot of attention as the disciple of the King of Fists." The protagonist thinks she's very loud, and that if it weren't for the donation, she wouldn't even be there. The reporter introduces the participants. On this side, we have the mysterious student, Shin Yu-sung, and on the other side, we have the student ranked 42nd in his year, the runaway train, Ju Hajin. He must be feeling overwhelmed by being in such a popular match. So, what made Ju Hajin want to participate in this tournament? Hajin says, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, but as a student of the precious Gaon Academy, I want to know if he really has the right to enter Gaon Academy, or if he's just using his master's success to get in here. I'll make sure to show everyone the most worthy match in the name of Gaon." A girl comments, "What's he talking about? That idiot just came for the SP points. He's ranked around 40, right? Looks like it's going to be a fun fight. So, who do you want to bet on to win?" Hajin says he's going to show everyone his power. The commentator then says, "Well, that was the interview with Ju Hajin. We've heard his noble aspirations. The next student is Shin Yu-sung. Before the match begins, can we hear a few words about what you're thinking right now?" He simply bows his head and says, "I'll do my best." The commentator remarks, "Wow, what a short and intense statement, but that's what we like." Hajin scoffs, "What a useless kid." The commentator announces, "The countdown has begun." Hajin thinks, "Rank F trash, like you should know your place. I'll finish this as quickly as possible." The commentator says, "Ready," and Hajin plans to use his skills as soon as it starts. "Begin." As soon as she says that, the protagonist disappears from Hajin's sight. In a millisecond, he is already in front of Hajin and delivers a powerful kick to his face. This surprises everyone watching the fight. After Ju Hajin falls hard to the ground, the commentator says, "The student's protective barrier broke with just one hit, and the result is a knockout. The winner is Shin Yu-sung." A girl starts clapping and says, "Well, he really won." The scene changes to Hajin waking up, wondering how he got there and why his body hurts so much. He quickly stands up and asks where he is. The nurse responds, "Well, where do you think, you idiot? Obviously, you're in the infirmary. Just drink this and rest a bit." Hajin reflects that he didn't even see the protagonist move. There's no way he could have done that. Given that jerk was a rank F student, he must definitely be a hidden rank S. The scene shifts to director Jin Byung-cheol, who says, "Student Shin Yu-sung, I want to officially congratulate you on becoming a Gaon student." The director's expression changes completely, from frustrated to all smiles. "I knew you could win here." The falseness is evident, but the director thinks, even if he's a rank F, he's still the disciple of the King of Fists, so I worried for nothing. But it's still too early to say if this kid is truly a rank S. The director then says, "Of course, your entrance exam was just the beginning. Shin Yu-sung, if you truly want to follow in your master's footsteps and become the best hunter in the world, you should aim to achieve one thing first: become one of the 7 ranked representatives of Gaon Academy." The protagonist thinks about this proposal while the director continues. To this day, no rank F student has become one of the 7. The protagonist asks, "Do you think I can join the 7? The director, maintaining his facade, replies, "Of course, there's always a path to becoming one of them, but only 7 will reach the end of that path." Suddenly, someone knocks on the door and asks if they can come in. The director director says, "Ah, you're here. Please come in." He then tells the protagonist, "Student Yu Sung, since it's your first time at Gaon Academy, I've called someone to be your guide." It was Lee Siwoo, who says, "Hey, Yu Sung, we meet again, huh?" The scene shifts to Lee Siwoo and the protagonist walking through the academy's corridors. Siwoo explains, "The director said he needed someone to guide you around the school, so I volunteered since we've met before." The protagonist thanks him while the students around are impressed by his presence. Siwoo comments, "By the way, I haven't introduced myself properly. My name is Lee Siwoo. Nice to meet you, Yu Sung, but you can call me Siwoo." The protagonist smiles and replies, "Nice to meet you, Siwoo." Siwoo says, "I saw your match. You were really incredible. To think you'd defeat Ju Hajin with a knockout as soon as the match started. Truly amazing." As expected of the disciple of the King of Fists, the protagonist responds, "I still have a lot to learn." Siwoo comments, "Noble attitude. The best students are shocked by you. Even in Class D, Ju Hajin was one of the best." Suddenly, a person appears in front of them and says, "Could you move out of the way?" It was a girl, dressed impressively. Siwoo responds, "Sorry, I was distracted. Forgive me." Siwoo asks the protagonist, "Yu Sung, are you okay?" The girl says, "So, this is the new student." A boy next to her says, "What are you doing? Why didn't you move out of the way immediately?" He was from the 3rd year, Class 5, Vice President Lee Hyak, rank 2 among the students. The girl says, "Wait, he's surprised to see me. We know each other, you know? Didn't expect to meet here, did you? Yu Sung, the failed product of our family." And with that, she walks past the protagonist. Siwoo comments, "Man, as I thought, something is really going to happen here, and I don't want to be around for it, but I didn't know he was part of the Sinu family." The scene changes, showing Shin Yu Sung reflecting on everything that happened. He recalls someone's words, "I already told you, kid, I'm not a failure." Yu Sung responds mentally, "I can't understand you. I'm really very curious." An ominous aura surrounds the two boys. Siwoo gets Yu Sung's attention and says, "Hey, are you okay? Your face looks really pale. Wouldn't it be better if you went back to the dorms to rest a bit? Besides, it's raining heavily outside. Let's do this. I'll guide you next time and take you straight to the dorms now." The protagonist, feeling very down, agrees, "All right, let's go." Siwoo continues, "All right, now I'll open the door." And as expected, this is what new students get. Still, Yu Sung, I'm sure you'll be able to rise quickly and get a higher ranked dorm room. The protagonist thinks that's amazing since he sometimes slept in trees. Siwoo says, "I put a number in your pocket. If you have any questions, you can call me." The protagonist thanks him. "Thank you so much for today." Siwoo bids farewell so Yu Sung can rest. The protagonist then takes off his clothes, takes a shower, and drinks a kind of banana juice. He finally lies down on the bed, looking out the window as it rains. He thinks, "Wow, it's really raining a lot, and the weather has been like this these days." He remembers a scene of him in the car, watching the rain, while someone says, "If you want to blame us, go ahead, but all humans have a limit. Trying to surpass that limit brings nothing but despair. If you were raised in the Sinu family, you would surely understand that." He sees a woman with an umbrella taking a boy's hand and walking away as the car drives off. This memory is very painful for the protagonist, who thinks, "But I didn't cry at that moment. Before, I believed it was all my fault for not meeting my parents' expectations, for being born with a rank F trait, for not being like my older sister. That's why I was thrown away, or at least that's what I thought. If I don't think it's sad, then it's not. From the beginning, it was impossible since I was too weak. I'm a failure, unlike my older sister. That's why all this happened to me." Suddenly, Yu Won-hak, the King of Fists, appears and says, "I am the best hunter in the world, and you, boy, have a hidden talent capable of surpassing me, so come with me, kid." The protagonist thinks, a dream that seemed as sweet as a lollipop. He initially refuses, saying he's tired and that if people have too many expectations of him, he'll only end up disappointing everyone. The master then says, "You're wrong, kid. The strongest person is not someone who never despairs, much less someone who never fails. I was exactly like you. The strongest is the one who fails more than others and despairs more than others. So, I'll teach you. Even if you cry in despair, I'll still teach you how to recover from all that. This way, you'll become the strongest hunter of all. And I, as the strongest hunter of all, guarantee it for you." He extends his hand to the protagonist, who accepts. The protagonist reflects, "Of course, I'm a different hunter now. Instead of pain, happiness is a greater memory. Using memories to overshadow memories. I really managed to overcome this." The protagonist's watch receives a message, and when he looks, it's from Siwoo. He says, "Hey, is the dorm comfortable? If you have any concerns, just let me know." Siwoo comments, "Your expression is always so gloomy, and I don't know. I'm pretty quick to notice these things." The protagonist, smiling, replies, "Siwoo, everything is under control now. The important thing is not the past I've lived, but the present I'm about to write." The scene then changes, and we see a girl turning off her alarm clock. She goes to the kitchen, makes breakfast, and after getting getting ready, announces that she's leaving. Out on the street, she says, I've been transferred to Gaon Academy for a month, but I still get emotional every time I come to this school, even compared to all the academies in the city. The facilities here are incredible. The training rooms, visual training techniques, large-scale training grounds, not to mention many other great features, like rooms that help with mana recovery. And of course, not all facilities are open to the public. Many of these benefits are given only to the top-ranked students, the 7. Such resources are a distant dream for a low-ranked student like me. This girl is a first-year student in Class F, named Hanajima Sumiri, and her rank in the year is 659. She arrives in front of a facility and thinks, even though I pass by it every morning, it's still far out of my reach. She then thinks, well, this room here is different. It's the first time I'm coming here. A man then speaks up. Everyone, please pay attention to me. Nice to meet you all. This is your first time here, right? I'm Lin Zio. A boy asks, wait, wasn't Myangu who supposed to be teaching today? Lin Zio responds, no, he was recruited by China and left the academy. But don't worry, I used to be a rank 5 hunter. If you trust me and follow me, I promise to teach you the best way possible. As proof of this, I've been given permission to use the image room in my classes. Only high-rank classes get this permission, and even rank F students like you can train here. Suddenly, Siwoo and the protagonist arrive late, apologizing. Siwoo says, I was giving a tour to student Yu-sung and got a bit distracted. The protagonist then says, hi, my name is Shin Yu-sung, Hanajima Sumiri. The girl we saw earlier comments, wow, that's the new student I saw the other day. Professor Lin Zio says, you're the disciple of the King of Fists, right? I've heard rumors about you. The protagonist confirms it. The professor thinks, a legendary hunter and a disciple with a rank F trait. This is really quite amusing. A unique combination. The professor sees the mana emanating from the protagonist and says, very good, you've been training hard. The protagonist responds, I've never missed a day of training. The professor comments, great attitude, being diligent and hardworking are very important traits for a hunter. He thinks, a student from Class F being recognized by a rank 5 hunter. The professor then says, well, student Yu-sung, let's see your skills first. There's no better place to check your strength than the image room. I've already set up the configurations. You know how to use the panel, right? You just click on the hologram and choose a difficulty. Isn't that easy? The protagonist says he understands and sets the training difficulty to danger rank 3, very difficult. The other students say, rank 3? Is he serious? The system then announces, monster being randomly selected, Orc tribe, configuration complete, difficulty chosen, hard. Hanajima Sumiri is impressed that he set it to hard. The system continues, applying difficulty. Orc intelligence increased by 150%. Orc physical strength doubled. Configurations complete. The protagonist smiles at the professor and says, well, I'll start now. Professor Lin Zio says, okay, you've set it up, so you can enter. He thinks, is he really going to use those settings? Rank 3 difficulty isn't too hard for him, since it's an image room, and he won't get hurt. Even so, I never imagined someone from Class F would choose such difficulties. I can't tell if he's bluffing or not. The system then announces, environmental settings, Rindel Desert, image materialization, 85%. The whole area really turns into a desert. The protagonist says, well, this is an image room. A group of orcs appears in front of the protagonist, and one orc says, how dare you invade our tribe's territory? The red orc orders the others to kill the protagonist, and they all charge at him without hesitation. The protagonist activates his trait, sharp focus, and senses a presence behind a rock, where 2 orc archers are hiding. They plan to use the warriors to tire the protagonist before finishing him off with arrows. As the axes are about to hit the protagonist's head, he ducks and breaks one of the axe handles, throwing the red orc's head far away. In a quick movement, he breaks the weapons of the other orcs. The archers shoot arrows, but the protagonist disappears and reappears behind them. The system announces, first year student rank F, Shin Yu-sung, completion rank, hard. He quickly finishes the test, surprising everyone. The system announces, congratulations on setting a new record. The professor thinks, a hunter with these moves is truly incredible. This kid is definitely not a fake. He has enough talent to become one of the 7, which is now the new goal of our protagonist. Siwoo says, you set a new record in your first class. Man, that's incredible. With this level of skill, you can achieve a lot. The protagonist doesn't quite understand, and Siwoo explains, they probably already explained it to you, but at this academy, there's a rank S. In short, skill is everything, but actually, it's a hierarchical system. 7 students are at the top and are called the 7. Of course, we can't forget that a student from the lower classes has never joined the 7. The protagonist listens, observing calmly. The scene shifts to Adela Hortensia, who opens the system and sees, completion record, first place, Shin Yu-sung, 1 minute and 11 seconds. Second place, Adela Hortensia, 1 minute and 23 seconds. Third place, Kim E, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Upon seeing Shin Yu-sung's name, she thinks, my heart is racing, but it's also as cold as ice. I'm reminded of the only hunter who defeated my grandfather. She receives a new message from Gaon Academy about the first semester exam and the team allocation, asking her to scan her fingerprint. This announcement goes out to everyone. Siwoo asks the protagonist if he saw the announcement and says they just need to touch the hologram to confirm. Everyone touches the hologram to confirm. Siwoo comments, in this test, you need to be lucky to get a good partner. So, Yu-sung, who did you get? The protagonist replies, I got Hanajima Sumire. He sees that he is in group 24 with her. When Hanajima sees that the protagonist is her partner, she turns red. The scene shifts to the cafeteria, where some students are talking. One of them mentions the exam and says, surviving longer is much more important than scoring high. A girl asks, so, is your partner high ranked or not? Meanwhile, another girl responds that she got very lucky. In another part of the cafeteria, some students are arguing. A guy from class D says, so you think such a small difference matters, huh? And the guy from class C responds, isn't it normal to listen to your superior when there's a disagreement? Our protagonist is eating calmly and comments, everyone's talking about the exam. Siwoo replies, that's because it determines which class you'll enter. And there are many benefits to being in a higher rank, but for lower ranks, it's terrible. A girl nearby stands up and says, Yu-sung, this is our first meeting. Right, nice to meet you, I'm Renia. She is a first-year student in class F, ranked 83. The protagonist, all cute, responds, hello, Renia. She excitedly says, hey, I have to tell you something. If you have some free time later, will you marry me? This declaration leaves the protagonist speechless, but it's clear he's breaking hearts at the academy. Siwoo intervenes, Renia, Yu-sung doesn't understand jokes very well, and she responds, but I'm not joking, I'm serious. Siwoo comments, you don't need to eat with me just because you're my partner for the exam. She says, I didn't come to see you. I came to see Yu-sung. Siwoo then asks, oh, you're curious to know who his partner is, right? Renia responds, wow, is it that obvious? Siwoo shows group 24, Hanajima Sumire. Renia is impressed. The protagonist asks, why are you so surprised? Siwoo is unsure how to describe Sumire. Renia explains, even in class F, it's not like everyone avoided her from the start. We thought she was just a shy girl with a quiet voice and needed help fitting in. But on her first day here, a strange rumor started spreading. Late at night, after all the students had left, one student came back to get something he had forgotten and saw her emitting strange energies and writing something terrible in her notebook. The next day, someone saw her drop a handkerchief. He tried to return it, but she quickly disappeared. When he opened the handkerchief, it was full of hair. Rumor has it she was transferred from Japan for hospitalizing her entire class. The protagonist happily asks, why? Renia responds, contrary to the rumors, Sumire is actually very weak. I never thought she'd be so weak. Siwoo adds, even in class F, it's too much. Don't expect much from her. From what I've heard, she was the best in class F in Japan. I don't know what's happening with her now. The protagonist thinks it would be good to know what happened to her, but there's no reason not to hear it directly from her. Suddenly, they realize Sumire has been sitting there the whole time. She apologizes for being the protagonist's partner and says, sorry for being paired with someone like me. Siwoo and Renia are shocked that she heard everything. Sumire continues, as I thought, you're disappointed in me, right? Being paired with someone as gloomy, quiet, and weak as me. I know everyone avoids me. I can only summon a skeleton, and even lost to a rank 1 monster. Really, who would want me? I'm just a burden to the team. Siwoo and Renia are left speechless by the situation. Siwoo comments, oh, it's time to go, so let's get out of here quickly. The students leave quickly, leaving the protagonist alone with Sumire. He says, well, can we talk a bit? She agrees, and the scene shifts to a garden where the protagonist gets a drink for her. As she drinks beside him, she says, I know I'm very weak, but the rumors you heard are completely wrong. I stayed in class late because I was writing in my diary, and I really need it to live well. And about why I carry hair, it's because of my trait. The protagonist asks about her trait, and she responds, my trait is undead control. It's a dark magic trait focused on the undead. The protagonist thinks she's a necromancer. She must be very powerful. She just doesn't know it. Or maybe she does. Who knows? Sumire continues, right now, I can only use one skill, and I need to make an offering with my hair. She pulls out a strand of hair and says, you who slept in the earth, open your eyes by this contract and this offering. Protect this witch. She activates the skill, and her strand of hair falls to the ground, transforming into a purple liquid that becomes a shadow, forming the face of a skeleton. The protagonist is surprised by her skill. The shadow forms into a cute little skeleton. Sumire says, but there's a big problem with this skill. The protagonist asks what the problem is. Sumire responds, commands, "Mr. Skeleton, could you please attack that tree over there?" The timid skeleton punches the tree, but its hand cracks and it falls apart. The protagonist thinks, a summoning skill that uses hair as a catalyst, but she's become weaker since the transfer. So, in that case, he quickly stands up and says, "Well, Sumiri, you don't have any friends, do you?" She responds shyly, "Well, I'm a weak student with a strange hobby of collecting hair." The protagonist thinks she must have used other students' hair in Japan, but after some event, she had to leave Japan and come to Korea. He says, "Sumiri, you can take a strand of my hair." She shyly asks if it's okay since everyone says becoming an offering is something dirty. The protagonist replies, "It's okay, you can take it. This is your method, and it's unique." She uses the skill again, and the result surprises her. The skeleton looks much more robust than the previous one. She comments that its eyes are clearer, then remembers it doesn't have eyes. She asks the skeleton to attack the tree, and it punches with all its strength. The skeleton's fist leaves a mark on the tree and remains standing, unlike the other one that fell apart. Suddenly, the punch explodes, completely disintegrating the tree. Sumiri is impressed and says, "This must be a dream. It's impossible." She explains that she usually can only mimic about 30% of the original skill. The protagonist responds, "That much should already help." Sumiri, impressed with the protagonist, says that maybe with him, she can become someone. She grabs the protagonist's hand and asks if she can take 10 more strands of hair. The protagonist responds, "That would be a bit problematic, don't you think?" The scene shifts to director Jin Byung-cheol, who is looking at a hologram. Lin Zio enters the room, and the director says, "I've been expecting you. This is your first time as a test supervisor, right?" Lin Zio responds, "Yes, but I've made all the necessary preparations to avoid making mistakes." The director says, "You don't need to be nervous. There's only one dangerous thing on Jewel Island." Lin Zio responds, "We've given several warnings." The professor continues, "So the students shouldn't enter by accident." Director Jin Byung-cheol responds, "Of course, there was a case of a student who entered fearlessly and completed it. But last year was the only time in history that happened." The professor comments, "You're talking about the current student council president, right?" The director confirms, "Ah, so you know her." The professor responds, "News about student Shin Haeon also reached Ranha Academy." The director continues, "A genius since birth. She was part of the Shinru family and, in simple terms, only a monster can kill another monster." The map shows the figure of a monster that was in that location. In the scene, we see a cruise ship, and inside it is Adela, peacefully gazing at the horizon. Suddenly, a woman appears behind her, asking what she is doing there and why she has such a serious expression. This woman is Kim Yuna, a first-year student from Class A, ranked number 2. Adela ignores her and continues walking. Annoyed, Yuna asks if Adela is ignoring her and why. Yuna then steps in front of Adela and says, "Let's fight just a little this time. There's a training area nearby. Isn't it perfect for that?" Adela responds that it has only been 3 days, but Yuna doesn't understand what she means. Adela then clarifies, "Since the day you lost to me." Embarrassed, Yuna says that this time she will definitely win. Adela, with no expression, says she doesn't want to fight. Adela then asks why Yuna is so persistent, and Yuna replies that she hates losing, whether it's to the first rank or the 1000th. The girls begin to glare at each other when someone announces that Jung is there. Adela's expression changes completely, and Yuna is surprised by the sudden shift. When Yuna looks to the side, she sees Jung, the new freshman. She comments, "Ah, so he's the new transfer student. What a surprise. To think you would care about a new student. Well, I guess it makes sense, considering he's the disciple of the Fist King, the one who defeated your grandfather. Or am I wrong?" Adela asks what that has to do with Yuna, who replies, "You never know, right? Who knows if Gayam's top rank won't change from now on." Adela just turns her back to Yuna and says, "Then you'll drop to 3rd place." Yuna insists that she's not done talking, but soon gives up and comments that Adela can be very annoying sometimes. She then looks at the protagonist, who was trying to shoo away seagulls from a girl's head. The scene shifts to a system window saying, "View of Jewel Island. 2nd semester evaluation test. Dangerous monsters of Jewel Island. Simple strategy. Strategy used by rank C hunters." It is said that the class about Jewel Island is about to begin, and that the true identity of the island is a rank 7 monster called the Abyssal Whale, a massive creature that can devour an entire cruise ship in a single bite. It was subdued by the Fist King and other legendary hunters. The news read, "Abyssal Whale finally subdued. High-level hunters, led by the Fist King, subdue the Abyssal Whale." A girl asks how the whale became Jewel Island. When the teacher is about to respond, the protagonist's partner, Sumire, says she knows. It's because of the residual mana from the Abyssal Whale. The teacher agrees. Exactly. The Abyssal Whale's corpse absorbed the surrounding attributes and turned into a large island. Thanks to this mana, plants and animals were born, creating a new ecosystem. them. The island is called Jewel Island because all the animals born there carry a gem-like mineral. Jung comments, interesting. Could it be because of the reaction with the mana? The teacher responds, that is still being debated. But the important thing is that we need to collect these jewels. On the system scoreboard, it read, rank 1 monster, 1 point, rank 2 monster, 5 points, rank 3 monster, 30 points, golem, 200 points. A girl exclaims, 200 points. That's amazing. If we capture one of those, we'll pass. Right. The teacher explains. The problem is that no one from such a low class has ever captured a crystal golem. A crystal golem is a TR rank boss. Our goal is to earn points safely, targeting rank 1 and 2 monsters. Everyone there was very excited to start the journey. The teacher concludes, I think that's enough explanation. Let's have some fun. When else would we have the chance to enjoy such a cruise? The protagonist thinks about the delicious food they can eat, and everyone agrees it's a great opportunity to try expensive and delicious food. They decide to wrap up the meeting since it was getting late. They taste various foods, such as dumplings and beef broth. Sumair mentions that the only time she had sushi was on her birthday. They continue ordering different dishes until they can't even handle a single grain of rice. Sitting on some benches, everyone is too full from eating so much. A girl even comments that if she keeps thinking about food, she might throw up right there. The protagonist says it was a lot of fun, and a guy asks, hey, Young, you don't seem that tired, and you ate a ton. Yuna then suggests, let's rest a bit. See you all tomorrow. I don't want to get seasick now. The protagonist responds, okay, see you tomorrow. Sumair says good night, and only Sumair and the protagonist are left on the cruise. Sumair feels shy, looking at the protagonist and thinking about how quickly the day flew by. The protagonist comments, you're right, this is a kind of joy I didn't expect while living my life on the martial arts spiritual mountain. Sumair asks, we'll reach Jewel Island tomorrow, right? I hope I'm not a burden to you. His expression changes quickly, and he says, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say something depressing out of the blue on such a happy day. It's a bad habit of mine. If I'm happy or something good is happening, I start to worry, afraid I'll make a mistake and ruin everything. The protagonist then comforts her. It's okay. You don't need to worry about that. We all make mistakes, but if anything happens, you can be sure I'll help you. After all, we're partners, right? Sumair blushes at Young's words and comments that he is really very kind, she says. But of course, in your case, I think you've never made a mistake. Hearing the word mistakes, the protagonist has some flashbacks of when he made mistakes during training with his master, including a day when he picked poisonous mushrooms and almost died. He smiles and says, no, I've made plenty of mistakes in my life too. Sumair asks if he's serious, and he confirms, yes, but fortunately, every time I made a mistake, my master corrected me. He was someone very important to me. Sumair comments, I think I understand. For me, my family is very important, even though I haven't been able to see them since I transferred here. The protagonist asks if she misses her family, and Sumair responds, yes, but it's okay. Coming to Gaon was my choice. I always look at their photos. Yusong, would you like to see photos of my family? The scene shifts, and Sumair begins to show photos of her family, which is quite large. She says, these are my dad, my mom, and my younger siblings. Aren't they cute? The protagonist agrees, and Sumair comments, well, unlike me, they are pretty calm. The protagonist then asks, Sumair, can I ask you something? She responds that he can ask anything, and he questions, why did you transfer to such a faraway place? I don't believe the rumors about you. Sumair freezes in front of the protagonist, starts to stutter, and remembers a mark that appeared on her hand, causing several skeletons to appear around her. In her memory, everything turns black and white, and she recalls injured people saying it was all her fault, accusing her of being greedy. Sumair begins to cry and confesses that her biggest wish was to escape. The protagonist touches her hand and says, I'm sorry, Sumair. You really don't have to talk about it if it's too painful for you. She apologizes, and the protagonist responds, no, it's okay. Relax. After all, everyone has something to hide, right? Sumair, smiling, says, Mr. Young, you really are very considerate. They finally arrive at the cruise destination, and the teacher announces, well, we finally made it. Ahead is Jewel Island. The scene shifts to a boy running from the forest with several monsters chasing him. Then, it switches back to Jewel Island on the first day. Sumair is looking at a small piece of paper where she keeps her hair, thinking about the test. She recalls the teacher explaining, the size of the jewel depends on the monster's rank. The higher the rank, the more points it's worth. Points will be added as soon as you put the jewel in your pocket. The test rules are simple. Collect as many jewels as possible in 2 hours. Sumair thinks, I don't want to be a burden to anyone. The protagonist then appears beside her, calling out, we should split up from here. She responds, oh, gather the jewels separately, right? Got it. He reassures her, don't worry, you have my hair, so you shouldn't have any problems. Even with rank 3 monsters. The protagonist holds Sumair's hand and says, "So, you shouldn't be so nervous, Sumair. I'm sure you'll do great." Sumair is charmed by the protagonist, who says goodbye, mentioning they'll meet up later. She thinks, "That's right, I can do this. After all, I have Mr. Young's hair as a secret weapon. I should start using it." Suddenly, something approaches Sumair from behind at high speed, and she screams. The scene shifts to Siwoo, hunting monsters with his bow and arrows. He warns, "We're surrounded now. Be careful. This forest isn't for overusing your abilities. Use your power sparingly." She responds, "Of course, I know that." Siwoo continues to spot targets with his clear sight. A deer at door 3. "If you can, take care of it." A deer appears near them, and the girl uses her fire power to incinerate it. Annoyed, she complains, "You barely gave me time to attack. You should speak up a bit sooner." Siwoo, serious, responds, "It's not over yet. Keep your focus." Suddenly, a giant boar appears in front of them. Siwoo shoots an arrow at the boar's head, but misses. As expected, a bow is too slow. The boar hits Siwoo, and now he only has 60% of his barrier left. Siwoo then pulls out a knife and strikes the boar's skull. As expected, "I'm not used to a bow." The girl asks if Siwoo is hurt, and he replies, "I'm fine, but my barrier took a hit. In the end, I got help again, just like before. I hate to admit it." The girl suggests, "Let's rest a bit. We need to recover the barrier." She offers to prepare things while he rests. Siwoo thanks her and lies down on the ground, exhausted. "To think we'd be in danger of being eliminated right at the start. Come to think of it, Young and Sumair are also fine. After all, they have Yusung, so everything should be okay." Suddenly, a drone is shown observing the students. Various people are running frantically. One of them shouts, "Who the hell messed with the jewel elephant?" The girl says, "Captain, let's fight." He responds, "No way. Are you crazy, girl? A rank 3 monster is too much for us. We'll die for sure." They end up cornered against a giant rock with no way out. Everyone simultaneously thinks they're doomed. Without realizing it, the elephant is already very close. They brace themselves, knowing they have no choice but to fight. One of them uses his poison trap. "I'll leave the rest to you." A girl activates her special move, Ki Blanche, grabbing a gigantic hammer and heading towards the monster's head with her atomic breaker strike. After the hit, they all wonder if they finally succeeded, but the attack doesn't even scratch the enormous elephant. Desperate, the girl shouts, "My attack didn't work." A blonde-haired boy says, "Well, this is our last option, so everyone gather around me." He then activates his sacred protection, but with just one hit, the elephant shatters it and sends everyone flying. The blonde boy comments, "Of course, it didn't work, right?" Then he says, "Well, it's finally over, isn't it?" The girl responds, "It's over for us here now, right?" He agrees, "Yes, it's over." She comments, "To be honest, we still have plenty of time. Let's leave the talking for the nurse." At that moment, the elephant charges at them to finish them off, but suddenly, our protagonist appears in front of them, saying he finally found that monster. The girl asks if he was some companion from the infirmary. With just one punch, the protagonist destroys the elephant. Everyone is very impressed with his strength. The protagonist then says he will take that jewel. They recognize him as the new student from the rumors. The protagonist thinks, now it's all good, but where could Sumair be? The scene shifts to Sumair, who is sitting on the ground with her hand on her head. She says that the sound was made by a carbuncle, a cute green creature with a jewel on its forehead. Sumair comments, "Good thing it was just that. But what are you doing?" The creature grabs the paper with the hair, and Sumair, desperate, asks it not to eat it. She slowly approaches, trying to retrieve the paper. "Calm down, good boy." The creature then angrily attacks her. Crying, Sumair asks what she needs to do to get it back. She picks a flower and says, "How about trading this handkerchief for this clover? I'm sure carbuncles are herbivores." She offers the flower, but the creature gets irritated by the smell. Sumair comments, You didn't like the smell? What do I do now? I don't have anything a carbuncle would want." Suddenly, she has an idea. "Wait, if I crush the clover, add some honey, and mix in some carrots." She prepares a special carrot treat for carbuncles, which is tasty and nutritious. She offers the carrot to the creature, which likes it a lot. Sumair then says, "How about now, huh?" She throws the carrot far away and says, "Phew, good thing I didn't lose any hair." Sumair summons a skeleton to grab the jewel from the creature's forehead and says, "Sorry, but your jewel will grow back, I promise." The skeleton plucks the jewel from the creature's head. Suddenly, a girl appears and says, "Sorry, everyone, just a moment. I'm late because of an order. I ordered a new burger from Starburger, and I'm not eating because I'm sponsored. I'm ready now, so I'll turn on the camera." The girl turns on the camera, starting a live stream, and says, "First, let's give a wink for the thumbnail. Sorry for the delay, but there's a big event planned for today, so please stay tuned." This girl was a first-year student, Amy Rose, rank 27. She says, "I've obviously finished all my preparations, and at that exact moment, I I had 13.52 people watching. Nice. The number of viewers is growing. So, everyone, let's take a look at the rankings. In first place, Adela Hortensia. As expected of Adela, right? She's been in first place since she arrived at Gaon. Her attribute is cold, one of the rarest possible. I've personally felt her attack, so I know exactly how strong she is. Among the 7 of Gaon, she's the only one who hasn't been defeated to this day. By far, she's the strongest student and the most promising hunter in the world. She continues. In second place, we have Kim Yuna. The one in second is from my class, the president of Class A. Her attribute is electricity. It's not very precise, but its destructive power is impressive. It shows Kim Yuna saying, "I've left the bodies with you." A boy responds, "Yes, obviously, leave it to me." As expected, she is really very impressive. This boy was Park Seum, a first-year student from Class A, ranked 7. In front of him were the gigantic monsters she left for him. In third place, to everyone's surprise, was our protagonist, Shin Yusung. The girl comments, "Okay, Shin Yusung really came in third place right after joining. This is definitely a cataclysmic event. Who would have thought that an F rank would reach third place? I'm sure no one expected this." Her viewers comment, "An F rank is in third place. Isn't that a mistake?" But without prejudice, she continues, "Well, let's take a look at him. No way he's facing that rank 3 monster alone." It shows the protagonist defeating the elephant with just one punch. She is horrified, unable to believe what she sees. No way. Is he really an F rank? Who would have thought he'd defeat a rank 3 monster so easily? But the most important thing isn't even that. This boy is handsome, right? He has the potential to become a star. I think I'll start keeping a close eye on him. I really need to get to know him. If I could get him on my stream, it would be perfect for creating content. Suddenly, she looks down and sees that the person in fourth place is Hanajima Sumair. Her viewers ask, "Who is Sumair? And why are you so surprised?" She responds, "Hanajima Sumair is from Class F. She came from Japan and has always been last since her transfer. I've heard she used to be the best in F rank, but hasn't been getting good results since then. How did she suddenly get to fourth place?" Watching Sumair, the girl sees her cooking calmly. Amy Rose comments, "I don't understand what's going on. Who's giving points to this girl?" Sumair was making curry and comments, "This curry turned out really well, but that was really dangerous for me. Good thing I had a special carrot that worked with that little creature. Oh, but the curry is almost overflowing. Mr. Yusung will be back soon, so I need to finish this quickly. I wonder how Mr. Yusung's skeleton is doing since it's as fast as he is. Well, it must have been influenced by my mana since I'm the summoner, so I don't have high expectations. However, that skeleton was defeating all the monsters it encountered and collecting crystals." The scene shifts to the skeleton surrounded by monster bodies, with many jewels collected. Sumair comments, "I just hope it returns safely. The ones who should be afraid are the forest monsters, not this fierce skeleton." The scene changes, and the protagonist has already reached Sumair. They are kneeling before each other. Sumair serves the dish to the protagonist, saying only one thing was left to add. When she adds it, she says the dish is finally ready and offers it to the protagonist, asking him to accept it, as she made the curry with a lot of care just for him. The protagonist, without hesitation, takes the food and thanks her. Sumair, shyly, wishes him a good meal. The protagonist comments, "The taste, the sweetness of the onion that melted into the curry, the soft texture of the perfectly cooked carrots and potatoes, the strong aroma of the curry, and the flavor of the meat in perfect harmony. And this on top is like the final piece, perfectly placed. This fried chicken was made for this curry. Truly, this is real curry, completely different from the one my master used to make." Sumair, anxious, wonders if he didn't like the curry. The protagonist then asks Sumair, "Could you please give me some more?" Seeing that the protagonist cleaned his plate in seconds, Sumair feels very happy and says she'll get more for him. Suddenly, they look up and see the mid-exam results being announced. First place, Adela Hortensia. Second place, Kim Yuna. And third place, Shin Yusung. Park Seum and his partner are impressed to see Yusung in third place. They comment, "Wow, he really is amazing." She responds, "I knew he would do well. After all, he's very handsome." In fourth place is Hanajima Sumair, which shocks everyone, including Sumair herself. The scene shifts to the Hunter Association's branch in the subway city of South Korea. Among some people, a woman in a red dress, the manager of the Academy City branch, appears. Her name is Mei Lin. She approaches a door and knocks. A camera with a microphone instructs her to enter. When she opens the door, she asks for permission and sees a man sitting, observing the test. Mei Lin thinks, "This is Gaon Academy, and to think that the president of the association would be monitoring the students. This is really strange." He comments, "There's someone who's caught my attention there. A student. He's the disciple of the Fist King." Mei Lin thinks, "How strange. To think that the president would be interested in an F-rank student, and he's in third place. That's truly amazing for an F rank." The president continues, continues. Rank is only an indicator to a certain point. Using it to measure things is convenient. But to get where we are, we need to look beyond it. A young man then asks, President, are you saying that the student Yusung has the talent of a legendary hunter? He responds, well, for now, it's just an old man's hunch, but I think I see something in this boy. Something we've been searching for our whole lives. The scene returns to Sumire, who thinks, am I dreaming? To think I'd be in 4th place. The protagonist comments, this still isn't enough. We're only in 4th place in the test. To become one of the 7, we need more points. Sumire responds, one of the 7. The protagonist continues, it might sound arrogant, but I know I can do it if it's with you. Sumire, embarrassed, says timidly, I don't know if someone like me can help you, but you can be sure I'll do my best. The protagonist smiles and says, calm down, no need to cry. In the bushes, 2 people are watching them and comment, we found them. Looks like we really got lucky this time. The scene shifts to a group of students celebrating. One of them says, you guys did great, huh? Let's gather everything we've got this time. When they open the bags, they find several crystals. We really got a lot this time. Another boy comments, we managed to be among the top just with this. A girl adds, it was definitely a good decision to work together. We'll be able to move up to a higher class dorm when we get back. The boy responds, I want to go back after this test. Suddenly, a guy appears from the bushes and says, what a racket, huh? You Class B punks should know how embarrassing this is. The 2 step out of the bushes, and he continues, when I say embarrassing, I mean moving in a group like this. A girl asks what they want, and he replies, nothing much. We just want to take everything you have. The students protest, what the hell are you talking about? These jewels are ours. Another student says, these points are ours. So, stop being a jerk and get out of here now. The guy comments, what stupidity, huh? Stealing is the right of the powerful. Don't tell me you're going to try to fight me. The blonde man then says, jump, grab the jewels and run as fast as you can. She asks, we're 4, but you want me to run. He explains, we can't beat him. Victor isn't a rank even among class of students. We'll buy you as much time as possible for you to run. Run as fast as you can and keep the points. We have no choice but to protect our points. He transforms into a sort of rabbit and says, okay, guys, I'll run as fast as possible. Victor comments, always making the foolish choices, huh? Everyone charges at him, telling him to shut up because they never liked him. Victor and his partner say, okay, then we'll show you why I'm called Victor of the Night. The scene changes, and Victor has already destroyed them all. He activates the provisional inspection announcement and says, they had a lot of jewels, huh? At that moment, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places are announced. Adela in 1st, Kim Yuna in 2nd, and Shin Yusung in 3rd. This surprises everyone, who comments, how did an F-rank boy get 3rd place? The scene returns to the present, with them observing the protagonist and Sumire in the bushes. He says, they really are TR rank, and that girl with him, she's not from class A. We really don't need to worry about that stupid woman. All we need to do is defeat him, right? Victor, with a malicious smile, says, really? What luck we have, huh? Sumire comments that it's already very late, and they should set up their tents. The protagonist agrees, but suddenly senses something and quickly stands up. From the forest, he feels a gigantic aura. Sumire is confused to see so many bats surrounding them, and becomes even more frightened. A boy then speaks, you really seem too good for an F rank, and your score, kid, isn't very high. You'd better give me everything you have. Actually, your only option is that or die. Sumire, desperate, says he's a point hunter. The protagonist asks what a point hunter is, and Sumire explains, it's a bad type of student who hunts other students instead of monsters. Victor thinks they are very scared, which is expected from F-rank trash. The protagonist then looks at Victor and says, I'm sorry, but I don't have any points to give you. The girl in the bushes comments, this is very bad. Victor goes crazy when the weaklings act like this. Victor's expression changes drastically, and he shouts, you F-rank trash. I swear I'll tear you apart with my claws before making you fail. The protagonist suddenly closes his eyes, and Victor asks, have you gone mad? Why did you close your eyes like that out of nowhere? But that's the correct response. You really can't catch me with your vision in the dark. However, for your misfortune, I'm faster than the speed of light when I'm transformed. Rest assured, I will crush that arrogant head of yours. Victor transforms into a bat-like creature and swiftly approaches the protagonist, ready to attack. Victor's partner comments that it's already over, but suddenly, Victor's cheek starts to deform, and he doesn't understand what's happening. The protagonist turns towards him and activates his battle god's form, ascending fist of the celestial dragon. He moves under Victor and lands a powerful blow to his abdomen, launching him against the barrier he had created, shattering it instantly. The flash of light leaves everyone surprised, especially Victor's partner, who can't believe he was defeated with a single strike. The scene shifts to a camp where the students are eating. A boy comments, damn, the plan was ruined from the start. He remembers Kim Yuna. She says, do you want me to help you? He responds, you're the strongest in our class. The members have already been decided, and if you join us, I'll definitely give you some of my points. Can't you accept that? Kim responds, this is really a plan you came up with on your own, isn't it? Besides, I heard there will be many of you, and yet you still need me. He says, well, it's in case of something unexpected. She responds, I'm not very interested in this. Besides, you make it sound good, but you're the one desperate for points, aren't you? The boy asks, what do you mean by that? Kim, smiling, responds, I'm making a fool out of you. If the test ends like this, you'll be kicked out of the set, won't you? And who will be your replacement? Kim Yuna continues, so it seems you're extremely dissatisfied with this, huh? Or would you like to try to steal my points? The boy responds, no, thinking about it, I think we're sufficient. She smiles and says, well, bring me a drink before you go. He responds, yes, sure. Despite being very angry at being humiliated, he calms down and admits, I have to admit, skill is everything here. He then speaks to everyone. Attention, everyone. From now on, I'll assign each person's duty. The group leader must check the number of people and equipment before starting. And of course, don't be worried or nervous. If it's Class A, we'll definitely succeed. He thinks to himself, well, that's correct now. However, this comes first. He was facing a cave with crystals. The scene shifts to Victor's partner, who is opening her eyes and feeling dizzy. She hears Victor's voice and, looking to the side, sees that he is completely unconscious with a swollen face. She starts to scream desperately as they were tied up. She was horrified because Victor looked like a monster. She reflects, I remember what happened, but this must be a lie. Did Victor really get knocked out with just one punch from an F-rank guy? It shows the moment when Victor was defeated. She thought she would never be able to defeat a monster like that and needed to flee as quickly as possible. Suddenly, Sumayer's skeleton appeared, and just with its presence, she fainted. The girl reflects, so that skeleton was really the summon of that girl. Thinking about it, the girl with purple hair must only have one good partner. She is still a normal F-rank student, and I can definitely subdue her in an instant. Yes, this is my chance. She frees herself, grabs Victor, and drags him away. She says, now we'll retreat for the time being, but I'm sure I'll have my revenge. Suddenly, a skeleton appears in front of her. She says, so it's you, huh? You really scared me back then, but I'm not afraid anymore. As punishment for scaring me, I'm going to break you into pieces. She unleashes her power towards the skeleton, but it easily deflects it. Sumayer comments that the noise came from the cave. The protagonist, celebrating, says that the hostages should surrender calmly. We see the skeleton subduing the girl by itself, which amazes everyone. Victor is already crying, begging for it to end quickly.